Hey y'all, my name's Christy. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Christy.
I'm really happy to be here. It's kind of, I was talking a little bit about it at dinner, but, and some of y'all have heard this before, but this meeting started, it was a long time ago. It was about 20 years ago. Yeah, about 21 years ago. We were all looking for, a meeting. Well, you know what happens, right? You have a home group, and then you get a little messy, and then they split up a little bit, and that was it was around the time that was going on with a couple of different groups, and there was a couple of us, or a group of us, that really wanted to start a home group that we could get really excited about going to every Monday, and you would never miss it, and it would be built on all the legacies, service, unity, what is the other one? Yeah, y'all will hear. That's why I've had a little problem with that, but anyway. So we wanted one that was built on that stuff. So when y'all complain about why we do a tradition and a concept every month, the reason why is because we wanted to know more about those areas of Alcoholics Anonymous. Left on my own, I'm not picking up a service manual. Left on my own, I don't know about all that stuff. So we thought if we incorporated that in, we would learn and grow in the traditions and the concepts, because we felt like that was a very important part. Or it is what makes Alcoholics Anonymous a group and everlasting, so that I'm grateful that this place was here when it was time for me to come here, and in the future it'll be still going because we have the traditions and the concepts. So the next time you go, I don't want to go to that meeting because they do that tradition concept thing, just come, and deal with it for 10 minutes. But it was a lot of fun getting that meeting started. That was a big, huge thing in my sobriety, is when we had a group of us have something to work on together. Man, it's just electric. We were starting that group, and we wanted to grow with it, and we were all together on it. There was not much fighting. There was not much of any of that stuff. It's like, it seems when we get bored is when we start fighting. I have kids, and so it's the same thing. You just have to have a little structure for them. So it was fun getting this meeting started. We started in the gym, and we could fill up that gym for a little while. And the whole idea was to have a speaker come once every month that we would get to come out of town, and it would bring a lot of people in. And then when they moved us to a little room, and that's where I met Shar. There was a little room, and we're all packed in there. We also did daycare because there were a lot of people that were coming that had little kids and didn't have a place for their kids to go, and so we did daycare so people could have that as service. It was just been this meeting has been is a great meeting, and it's just got a lot of rich history, and a lot of the people that were involved in this meeting over the years are really special people. So thank y'all for keeping it going. So I talk funny because I'm not from these parts. I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, where you can't tell the difference between the drunks and the alcoholics. Everybody kind of acts the same. It's always a party. There's always something going on. There's Mardi Gras, like they're getting ready for Mardi Gras right now, and it's really early this year. Anyway, the Mardi Gras, spring, Sunday, Monday. It's just, it's a place that celebrates life, right? And alcohol is always a part of that. There had alcohol in every household. Every household had a bar, from the smallest of houses to the biggest of houses had a bar at their in the house. And the very first time I drank, well, I don't know if it was the first time. It was the first time I meant to get drunk. I was about 13. I was at my girlfriend's house. Her parents had a big bar because they had a big house, and it went like the length of this room, and there were big bottles of liquor that were on swivels, and so you could just pull it down and pour it into your glass. We didn't know how to make drinks, but we got big tumblers and we filled them up with ice, and then we took this thing and just glug, just filled up those tumblers, and put a little soda in it or some Coca-Cola, 7-Up, whatever it was. And we drank that, and our goal was to get drunk. And I think I was drunk in 10 minutes, a little strong. But the biggest thing that I remember from that was that this thing happened for me when I first ingested alcohol, and it went to my head. It was like anything's possible, right? It was like this feeling came over me, like when you walk into Costco, anything's possible. I could buy anything in this place. It was just like anything's possible. I could. I was just a part of. I was in the moment. I was all the things that I wasn't without alcohol. Without alcohol, I was in my head. I look back at my childhood and I don't remember a lot about it because I think I was such a cerebral kid. I was just always in my head, assessing situations. I was just like, is this dangerous? Is this safe? Is this, I lived in my head. Or do I need to act differently? Do I need to, I want this, so how do I get that? But it was all that going on in my head all the time. But then when I had that first tumbler of whatever that was all gone. It was just the ease and comfort that it talks about in the big book. It was just, I could breathe, and I was like, okay, let's do this, and we were talking to people on the telephone. We were calling all the boys in middle school. It was a lot of fun. And then we stripped off all our clothes and jumped off the roof into the swimming pool, and we were just having a good time. The next thing that I remember was I was in bed and I was soaking wet, but I was in bed, and my girlfriend's handed me the phone, and I just hear this like yelling kind of and I put it to my ear, and it's like, you're grounded for the rest of your fucking life, that kind of thing. And it's like, and I don't know how long I can't tell you anything after that. What I can tell you though is that the next time I was around alcohol, or I made it where I could be around alcohol, and that was the thing that I sought out, and I wanted that feeling, that magic that happened with that first drink. I don't know if you ever get that again. Is that a one and done thing? Do you ever get it back? Is it just like, nah, you get that one magic feeling? Because I searched and did all the things to try and get back to that spot for many years. I had fun, a lot of fun. Drinking in New Orleans is a lot of fun. It wasn't a problem, it wasn't a problem for a long time. Well, if you consider 8th grade to early 20s, not a long time. That's when you start drinking before you go out, and then you have to drink before you drink to go out. Then you have to get ready to drink before you drink to go out. It kind of evolved into that. And then the hangovers, would get a little bit worse. But I always made it to work because that was the thing that would fund me and my life. I always made it to my responsibilities because I wanted to be able to drink. I wasn't giving all that stuff up. I was on my own. I think I was 17, and I was on my own since I was 17 years old. So I was the only one that I could depend on, to have a roof over my head and have food and all that other stuff. So I always made sure that I worked, and I always made sure that I kept all those things straight. But I partied every night, and I showed up every morning. I don't know how. Until I started to get into these wrecks. I got my first wreck, and the most catastrophic, I guess, if you want to. It really was. I was in this little, I just dropped off a girl. I was living in Alexandria, Louisiana. I had taken a job in Alexandria, Louisiana, because I thought maybe New Orleans was my problem. But I kept coming home to New Orleans on the weekends to drink. Anyway, I dropped off a friend of mine, and I was in one of those Fieros. Remember those Pontiac Fiero cars? They had the gas tank in the center of the car. Anyway, I was driving that car, and I was trying to get onto the interstate. I had just dropped this chick off, and I was trying to get on the interstate, and it was a little wobbly. And so I figured if I punched it, if you go fast, the trajectory stays straight. So the faster you go, I know it's not going to wobble a whole lot, and I'd make the center of the on-ramp to the interstate. And what happened was right before I hit the on-ramp, I had a little puddle of water that had just started raining, and the Fiero spun out and rocked around an electric pole. And that girl, if that girl was in that car, she wouldn't have been there, because the electric pole had come in to the middle of the car. I smashed my face. I broke everything. I smashed my arm, my head, my upper body was just toast, And people were just getting up for work, and so their electricity wouldn't go on. So that's how they found me, because I knocked out electricity, including the New Orleans Superdome, and they love that. They love that part. So I just have to say, the lights wouldn't go on in the Superdome. So they went, something's wrong. So there's this chick wrapped around it. So they had to cut me out, and they took me to Charity Hospital, and I was Jane Doe for a little while. And I had gotten married for like 3 months, and I had changed my name. So this was a couple of years later, and they're looking for this chick that doesn't exist, and they finally found my people. But I was in a coma for about 10 days. And the story is, my mom came to Charity Hospital where I was in the coma, and she tells the story that I came out of the coma for a minute, and I said, I looked at her and I said, I think I have a problem with alcohol. And then I went directly back into the coma, because that's a little too much truth for an alcoholic to say, right out loud like that. And I didn't drink. What happened was that was a long recovery from an accident like that. I had to learn how to walk. I had to learn how to talk. I didn't have memory. People would have to tell me stories about how I knew them. And so if they give me enough detail, it's like I could capture the memory again. And then it was back. The brain is crazy. It's really interesting. But it would come back. So people would tell me our story, how I would know them, so that I could so that I could remember them. So it was a long recovery, right? And I was, I didn't drink during that time, but when you have those kinds of injuries, they're giving you pain pills, so the edge is off. So you don't really need that. But there's a friend of mine that came over, and I was about 100 pounds, barely, and I had been in the house for a while, and he said, you need to get out. And so he said, I'm going to take you out to dinner. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. No, I said like this, oh, that sounds great. And he said, that'd be, I said, yeah, you'll drive. That means I can have a glass of wine, or I can have something to drink, because you'll be driving. I mean, I just explained to you what drinking did. Got me behind a car, totally. And I go, oh, I can rationalize and justify that next drink over all that time to say, oh, well, this will be different. And I had to stick the straw through my missing tooth to drink this. And within not quite a year, I remember thinking, I was like, I got drunk really fast, right? And I always took pride in the fact that I could drink people under the table. I hear my kids say that now. I can handle it, Mom. I can drink almost anybody under the table. And I go, ooh, ooh. So y'all keep this program alive. Y'all need to help my children. Yeah. So, what was I saying? Within a year, I was back to drinking. I remember thinking, this was the part I was going to tell you, was I thought I just have to get back up to drinking weight. I had lost so much weight, right? From being so incapacitated for so long. I just need to get back up to drinking weight. So I started eating more. And it was like, I don't work out now. The doctor's like, Christy, you can have a heart attack, your high blood pressure. I'm like, yeah, I know. Isn't that terrible? But I'm not, I need to withstand and hang out, so I can drink longer. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work out for that. And that was the thing, it's like, I'm going to work up to I'd ate a lot so I could get bulky and get back up to drinking weight. And so not quite a year, I had gone back to New Orleans. I should not go to New Orleans. I went back to New Orleans for like a reunion, and it was about 2 or 3 in the morning, and we were driving down St. Charles Avenue, just wasted, and I passed out, and my car veered to an oak tree, and I rode up an oak tree and flipped it on its roof, right across from the Shoney's where the cops were drinking coffee, and watched the whole thing. And I got thrown out of the car. And my girlfriend that I knew since kindergarten, we went to kindergarten together, I was out on the street, and I looked over, and I saw her, and she was upside down in my car because she had on a seatbelt. I didn't. And I looked at her, and I remember thinking, I never thought I would hurt anybody else, and then it was like, I've heard other speakers talk about, their body left they left their body, and it was like I kind of just surveyed my life at the moment, and I remember thinking, something's got to change. Something's got to change. And I had to take care of the totaled car and all that kind of stuff. But I went back to Alexandria, and I had been seeing a shrink for 3 years because I was a terrible victim. And I never told her anything about the drinking. But I did tell her about all the horrible people in my life and my parents and how they had just wronged me. And I went in, and I sat down, and she knew that I was coming back from this accident and everything, and she said, Christy, you don't have a problem with drinking. You don't have any more issues. We've covered all your issues. You're good. What you have a problem with is drinking, and you need to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. And but first, you need to go to a treatment center, to get separated from alcohol. We've talked to your boss. We've talked to. I was like, excuse me? You've done what? And I was on the outside just pissed. I was like, oh, so you're going to support me for the rest of my life when I lose this job, because I had a little security problem. And I was really angry with her, and I let her know that. But on the inside, I remember thinking, thank God somebody's taking control of this train wreck. This is a train wreck, and I don't know my way out of this. I just don't know how to get myself out of this. And so I went to treatment, and I went to all the little groups that they had, and you'd like beat pillows and say yes to life. And there was a Leo Buscaglia program that said, say yes to life, and it was really lame. But the thing that they did do, A, we were locked up, and B, they took us to an AA meeting every night. Every night they took us to an AA meeting, and I signed up for that bus because they had caffeinated coffee. They wouldn't give you caffeine in treatment because it was a gateway drug, and they wouldn't let you smoke cigarettes because it was a gateway drug. And I'm like, this is not a gateway drug. It's like physical. I need it. It was, so I could smoke a cigarette and I could get caffeinated coffee if I go to the AA meeting. Not because I wanted to find out why I was in this place. It was more about getting the gateway drugs. And I had been introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous. My mother had sobered up 8 years prior to this, and I had gone to AA meetings, and I know that going into those AA meetings, I could hear truth. There was something about the stuff that people were sharing that really resonated in my heart, and it was truth, and I could relate to the things that they were saying, and I could identify, and scared me just a little bit. But I was so resentful at my parents for the horrible things that they had done to me as a child, and that I really thought that AA was just a support group for people that had treated their children badly, and they just got a lot of support for that, that there was no way to rectify any of that stuff. And I didn't think it was really a program for me. It was mostly because I didn't want the program that worked for my mother to work for me. But I was familiar with AA meetings, and I did hear a solution every single time I went to one of those AA meetings, whether I recognized it at the time. And so I started listening in those meetings to get the coffee and cigarettes. But I would hear what they would have to say, and I was like, well, maybe I could do that. I don't know. Because I inherently thought that there was something seriously wrong with me, that there was no answer for me. I thought I had such bad luck that I wasn't going to be able to die from one of these death-defying accidents, that I was going to be a quadriplegic, deaf, dumb, and blind, stuck with this brain, right? No way to get out. That was my fear. That's hopeless. So I thought, well, if I go to those AA meetings for the next 70 years, couldn't be a worse life. It could be worse. I could be a quadriplegic, deaf, dumb, and blind. So I started going to those meetings, but it wasn't until Family Week. They had Family Week at this treatment center, and my mom came to this Family Week with her 8 years worth of AA. And she sat in that room. It was me, her, and the director of the treatment center. And they said, the director of the treatment center said, so Christy, you want to tell your mother the reasons why you drink? Yes, I do. And I just you were drunk, you embarrassed me, you weren't there for me, you were falling out, blah, 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 every time you sent me to the grocery store, you wanted change back from your 20, and everybody else's parents wanted change back when they came back from the store. I was 31 years old saying that. It's true. My dad did leave when I was 16. Yes, it's true. My mom was a terrible drunk. Yes, it's true. There was a lot of crappy crap that happened when I was a kid, but those are not the reasons why I drank. So Betty says, my mother says, she looks at me and it's like one eyebrow goes up and I go like, oh, I'm dead. She says, so those are the best reasons you have for drinking? And I said, well, I reserve the right to tell you anything else I remember later. And she said, because if those are the best reasons why you drink, I'm scared for you because you're going to die. She just flat out said that. She said, Christy, I sobered up 8 years ago. I made amends to you, and you're still drinking because I was a drunk? You know, I mean, let's put this in perspective. She did make amends to me. I burned those amends. Drunk with a group of people. I read them. It was horrible. And this is... Sorry to all the parents out there. But I did. We went out one night and I got the letter and I was like, oh, y'all listen to this. And so I got everybody got a beer and drink, and I read the letter and then burned it. I'm a horrible person. Yeah. Anyway, she said, I sobered up 8 years ago, and the way that I continue, she said, I made amends to you, and the way that I continue to make amends to you is I work the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And baby girl, this ain't it. I was like, she just took it all away, and at that moment, I just kind of left my body and looked over the situation. And I was like, I don't drink because my dad left and my mom was a drunk and I'm Italian, but not really, or I'm from New Orleans. Those were all the reasons why I thought I drank, I realized I like the effect produced by alcohol, period. And when I start, I don't want to stop, ever, and then I started to, after that, I was just shifted. In Alexandria, there was this old guy, Ben, with blue eyes, and he would say, he'd talk about the step before the first step, and I think that was kind of like the moment of clarity for me. It was like, these people have nothing to do with why I drink. I drink, what am I going to do? Once you have that admission, it's like, now what? So I started going to those AA meetings with a little bit different ears, different eyes, different comprehension of what was going on, and it was nice. And I really got involved in Alcoholics Anonymous. I got out of treatment. I went to 3-4 meetings a day for like the first 2 years of my sobriety. I just wanted everything. I just needed it. I needed something to replace the alcohol. Alcohol was not the problem. Alcohol was the solution. Then when you take my solution away, this is what you get. It's crazy. And so I needed another solution. And I found the solution in Alcoholics Anonymous for a really long time. I got involved and I did the 12 steps. My first sponsor didn't really do the steps. So she was cute though. They said, get somebody that has what you want, and she was wealthy and she had a couple of cars and a couple of houses. So I was like, okay. And she sounded familiar because she sounded like she had a New Orleans accent, and I was like, all right, I'll go get her. And so she was really nice. I got involved with the group in Alcoholics Anonymous, and we go to meetings all over. We'd travel to meetings. We'd go to Lafayette. We'd go to Baton Rouge. We'd go all these places to go to meetings. And And I would come back and I'd go, okay, we have to do the first step and this is how we do it. And she'd go, okay. That's not how sponsorship works. But I didn't know that at the time. It worked for me. It was really good. Until it wasn't, And that was my first. She really helped me get into the rhythm of AA, right? She taught me how to make my bed. She taught me how to clean my dishes. She taught me how to go to work on time and do what they asked me to do. And she taught me a lot of good things. She got me to go with the people more my age. And do we want to be finished at 8:30? Yeah. Mike's like, yeah. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing, baby. I'm sorry. Anyway, she gave me a place to feel safe and to land. And I would go to meetings and then I'd go and tell her about that. And that was great until I really needed to do the work. I mean, I had to do the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it wasn't working the way that we did it. And I was about 8 months sober, and we went to a conference in Baton Rouge, and there was this guy, Joe Hawk. He did the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. He looked like Captain Kangaroo. You ever see that guy? Looks just like Captain Kangaroo. But he was so articulate, and he was like this symphony of truth, and I was like, I want that. I want to do that. And he talked about the first step, and he said, we admitted we were powerless when we were, while we were drinking. He added, we admitted we were powerless while we were drinking, and that our lives were unmanageable sober. And I was like, oh my God, that it's like that time where the guy comes over and he says, you need to get out, let me take you to dinner. And I say, yeah, and I'll get a glass of wine because you'll be driving, And then what happens after that, my life was unmanageable. I was powerless over alcohol because once I put it in my system, I'm off to the races. And then my life was unmanageable sober. I'm sitting in there crying and laughing in the same minute. I don't know what to do with all this stuff that I never dealt with since I was 13. Once you start drinking, they told me you're 13. When you start drinking, you sober up at 31. You've got the emotional equivalent of a 13-year-old. So I'm like, in a 31-year-old body, I was seriously unmanageable. And I knew at that moment that I had stayed sober out of fear that I was going to hurt somebody, fear that, I just wanted all the people off my back. I was staying sober on fear until that moment when that guy said that. I bought the fact that I like the effect produced by alcohol and my life is unmanageable sober, totally, completely at 8 months sober. And I found a sponsor that I could do the work with, and we did the 12 steps, and I've always been engaged in that. But I have a cautionary tale for you people that have been here for a while. I've been I was very active in Alcoholics Anonymous. I got 24 years of sobriety, and I think I started to buy my own press. So if you know any people that have a lot of time, or if you have a lot of time, don't buy your own press, because it gets, we do that sometimes to people that have time, it's like, oh, well, you have time, you get up there, you do the thing, and I do my song and dance, but I'm not telling you what's really going on, alcoholism is an illness that we have every day. Every day it has to be treated with the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And if I think that I've graduated at any point in time, which I think maybe I did at 24, I'm not telling anybody the stories that are going on in my head. I'm judging everybody in the meetings. I'm like, if I hear that story one more fucking time, I'm going to kill them. And I know he's sleeping with her, and nobody else knows about it. And I know that one's taking a sleeping pill, and all that's going on in my head. And I said, well, I just need a break from this Alcoholics Anonymous. So I stopped going to meetings, and then I started to reconsider my spirituality. I started to think, well, I've always assumed that there was a God. Like, I never questioned whether there wasn't. Maybe there's not. He's never spoken to me. So that crap starts going on in my head. And so now I've got no meetings. I've got no spiritual life. And then my kids had hit 18, it's like when they really don't want anything to do with you anymore. So I'm really left on my own. And I had gone to my kid's senior softball game, right? It was the last softball game of her senior in high school, and all the moms wanted to go to El Chihuahua after the meeting. And after the game. And I go, yeah, I'll go with y'all. I had always had sponsees. I had always had a home group, things to do in Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I go with these moms, right? And I go to El Chihuahua with these moms, and I'm sitting there, and they're ordering these things called Death Stars. They're like these big drinks, and they have ducks floating in them. Ducks. They're big enough to have a rubber duck float. And so they say, Christy, you going to get one of those? And I go, no, I'm an alcoholic. I don't drink. I'll take a Diet Coke. And they go, oh, you can have one. And it's like, no, really, I can't. And I knew that I couldn't, but I was just an angry, spiteful little witch at about that time. No meetings, no nothing. I went to the bathroom. I come back, and those sweet little ladies, not one of them was a sober alcoholic, got me one of those drinks and put it right on my table, right in front of me. And that part in the big book where it talks about the time that there will be a time that you have no mental defense against that first drink. And I didn't, because I said, fuck it. And I drank that bad boy. And I drank for about a year, So when I talked to my sponsor about it, I fessed up to my sponsor about it after about a year of just secretly drinking in my room after work with the door closed. I'm there by myself. Anyway, I tell my sponsor, I was like, I can't do this. And she was like, oh, she said, tell me what happened. Those sponsors, they're sneaky. They like, they're just cast and then real and cast and real. And she said, oh, tell me. She said, tell me what happened. And so I said, well, the meetings got a little, the Charlie Brown teacher kind of thing was going on. I mean, so-and-so's taking this. And did you know so-and-so's sleeping with that person? And do you know... And I was telling her all this stuff, and she's like, really? I mean, just... and so she said, so that's it, huh? I go, yeah, that's everything, everything. She goes, let me ask you one question. That's where they get you. She said, let me ask you one question. She said, Christy, you're an alcoholic, right? And I go, yeah, for sure. I knew it when I drank. I knew when I took a drink out of that drink that you're fucked. I mean, that's pretty much what I knew. But I did it anyway because I needed relief from my head and everything else. I needed a solution. And she said, then tell me, what do all of those things have to do with you not taking a drink one day at a time? That was the question. And everything in me just wanted to tell her, F you, and It's like, oh, you think you're so smart. But that is the bottom line, isn't it? Does any of this other stuff have anything to do with me not taking a drink one day at a time? None of it does. And if I would have opened up from the very first thought, the only thing that I know from doing the 12 steps is that I am full of pride. I'm less than or I'm better than. I'm not one of. And if I'm not one of, then I can't tell you what's going on with me. I can't tell you the real transparent thoughts, because there's nobody in here that would laugh at me or say, Christy, are you crazy? Except for Pat. Pat would tell you. But everybody, I could have talked to anybody about any of the things that were going on, in my head, and I didn't tell one person anything. Anyway, I'm truly glad. I've been sober for, my birthday is July 17th, 2018. I think I'll have 5 years in July. And I can't tell you how this last 5 years I've been freer than I've ever been in my life. But I've also been the most transparent I've been with anybody in my life. I've been dedicated to working the 12 steps, applying those in my life, finding out those other things that are going on. This is the other thing with people that have sobriety. Alcoholics Anonymous takes away the obsession to drink. We can go through life, but there might be other things going on that we need to address. I didn't address those things. I think that the 12 steps can fix everything, and they can't, but I have to be willing to talk about it, and I have to be willing to find the help for that thing to continue to grow and to continue to be able to be of service to people in Alcoholics Anonymous. The most important thing to me in my life is a relationship with a power greater than myself. That's the most important thing that allows me to continue to be honest with you and to stay sober one day at a time. I really appreciate y'all letting me share.